Motherhood is designed to break you open. We have been fed this narrative, and it starts from the moment we see those two little pink lines, or maybe from the moment that we start trying for a baby. And we think that we are going to arrive into motherhood unchanged, and we're going to be the mother that has it figured out. Or maybe if you're someone who has a bit of a traumatic background, you are going to be the best mum because you can see all your mother's flaws, and there's no way you'd recreate that. And then pregnancy arrives, and it's so exciting to be pregnant, and everyone is, showering you with presents, and you're feeling super loved and connected to your partner, or maybe you start to feel that something is a little off. Everyone's experience is slightly different. But then you have a baby. And as a former registered nurse that used to do home visits, the first few months of having a baby are when we are cracked open. And I mean, literally and figuratively, you could have had a cesarean birth and literally been cracked open, or a vaginal birth, or you may have experienced some birth trauma that you're trying to unpack. But regardless, no one actually prepares you for those first few months. And I'm talking about a deep inner preparation. I'm not talking about going to your baby class and having a laugh at practicing bathing babies or changing nappies or swaddling. For a lot of us, we've never even held a baby before. And then we're like left in charge of this tiny human that can't even hold their head up. And that can be so daunting and scary. But everyone's really actually good at scaring us about practical things like, oh, they're going to poop everywhere, or, oh, breastfeeding's horrible, or, good luck, you'll never sleep again. Like, we're really good at saying that to people. But we're really also missing out on the preparation we can give new mothers by sharing on identity deaths, ego deaths, where when we become a mother, it really reveals to us where who we are was actually built on sand, not concrete. Who we are, or who we thought we were before having children, shifts and change, and it reveals itself in some really brutal and ugly ways. Like, if you are, give myself as an example. I had finished uni. I was a new mother with a toddler and a newborn, and we had the fanciest new house. We'd built in the burbs. We started to set up this, we had our pigeon pair. My husband was working. I was trying to get back to work. It was really wild. And then when my son was about 2.5 months, I was like, I hate this. I don't want to be doing this. And it scared me. It scared me, and it just cracked me open. And 5 years on, it's easy to talk about it, but at the time, it was really the start of discovering who I was as a woman. So when we give birth to our babies, we aren't just birthing them, we're birthing ourselves all over again. And we are really stepping into womanhood from girlhood. And it doesn't matter if you're a mum at 40 or a mum at 20. Until you have a child, you are really not going to appreciate the level of shift that happens. And the self-development world, and the world that I really enjoy and I love watching motivational speakers, and I love really driven people, that can also set you up to fail in early motherhood, because all of a sudden it is 2 a.m. and you're up for the 6th time of a night with a newborn. And that part of you that has relied on your ability to push through and succeed, and your drive, or your career drive, or your hot body, or your perfect relationship, all those facades that you carry around, it's really hard to uphold those on 3 hours of sleep. And so you can get into your head and start to tell yourself that you're really bad at this. you're bad at mothering because you're up for the sixth time at 2 a.m. Or, your mind really starts to play tricks, and it reveals where you relied on your ability to succeed and push and drive to feel like a good human. So even though arguably on the outside, or you'd probably look at your best friend doing this job and you'd say, wow, you're doing an amazing job, we start to internalize and berate ourselves, and we get into our heads about what we're doing must be wrong. Now, when we become mothers, we are also really revealing where we rely on the doing of life, our external achievements. So the ability to get the promotion at work. Anyone who's ever had a baby or been pregnant, you know that it shouldn't be there, but it is. You are less likely to be promoted. You are more likely to be passed over. And that's not fair. I'm not saying it is, but why does it affect us so much? Why do we hold these accolades as really important in our life? Our level of control, we don't have control over this tiny human. This tiny human wants to be up at 2 a.m. and you don't have the choice. You're up with that baby. Breastfeeding may not be going well. For a lot of us, breastfeeding is actually really hard and takes a lot of work, and our little babies, their little mouths might not be opening far enough, or they may have a tongue tie, or you may have experienced some birth trauma and they're quite bruised and sore, and so that will start to stress your nipples. Or maybe you are someone that really thrived on independence and suddenly you are not independent, and that can be really brutal. Now, all of these things that I'm talking about, so control, the act of doing, achievements, independence, all of this is, say, baseline for our nervous system. And then when we arrive into motherhood, our nervous system's going, this is so unfamiliar to me. This is so hard. And that is so often why we see women that are absolutely killing it at the game of life before children. I see it all the time in celebrities when they come out and talk about, I was so depressed in early motherhood. And it's often because we associate our worth with being able to control, be independent, achieve, and do all the things we need to do. And then early motherhood kicks our ass and shows us where we were relying on these external things. Now, the loss of the ability to do all these things is not a loss in itself. It is not something that you just have these things taken away without being able to gain things. It holds two truths. You can adore your baby, you can love your baby, and you can still have moments of missing your old life, your old freedom. That is a normal transformation in motherhood. Now, there is also a grief where we sit and ponder. These times come up when I had my third child, where I would sit and feed her and I'm looking at her and I'm just bawling my eyes out and I'm so in love, and I just have this moment of like, oh shit, I just had another baby. Like, I've got 3 kids now. Like, I have to do like a head count when we get in the car. And that was just this moment of like, oh God, I've got 20 years. And I had this moment not that long ago with my husband, where we looked at each other, we're like, oh my God, like, this is just a lot. But you can hold two dualities and they be equally as true. And it really is not a measure of your love or your quality or your motherhood if you miss your old life. But what actually is starting to happen is that you lose who you are and discover who you are truly meant to be. And I see it sometimes. I think women don't even realize that we're being sent these lessons. But I used to have a joke with my friend, like, what did I even do all day? When I had like no children and I had a day off, I would like struggle to get a load of washing done and clean the house. Or I'd just sit around or watch a movie or whatever, because I had so much time. In motherhood, I feel that it is such a gift to have less time to do what you love, because it really makes you put your money where your mouth is. It makes you really be like, okay, for example, I'm recording this podcast right now. My mother-in-law has my children for another 40 minutes. So I have to get this done. I want to get this done. I love talking about these topics. So I am getting it done. There was no messing around this morning. So it really does transform your freedom into a greater drive for your passions, because you know how much work it takes to actually get it done. The second one is it really breaks through your disguise or your facade of having the perfect life. So if you let it, there are circumstances, and I have met women that never let that happen, and it does come at a cost. You cannot be a perfect mother. Imagine being the child of a parent that wants to be perfect. Imagine that level of stress and pressure, seeing a parent that has to have everything perfect. And this doesn't just look like straight A's at school. This can look like the house being perfect all the time, or like the stress of leaving a toy out, or the stress of saying the wrong thing. And a lot of us are products of that. I certainly am. So perfectionism can be hidden in plain sight, but it's an opportunity in motherhood to let that go, to be okay with embracing the chaos and the mess, and knowing that things aren't perfect, and that's perfectly imperfect. It's a good thing to let go of perfectionism in motherhood. Now, a big thing that is not spoken about, probably the biggest thing, is that motherhood reveals your inner child in a way that you can't even dream of touching before becoming a mother, because your child will trigger in you at the age that they start showing behaviors what you weren't allowed to do. And I'll use my own example for this again. My early motherhood with my firstborn felt like heaven, and my husband and I used to say it felt like heaven on earth. It truly did, until she hit around 20 months, 19 months, and started tantruming. And these weren't little like upset that I took something off her or she couldn't have a cookie. These were like full-blown meltdowns, kicking, punching, spitting, biting, like she lost it. And I remember the first time she threw a real tantrum, not like a cute little baby tantrum, like a real tantrum. I remember being confused about the reaction within my body. And I had gone from like adoring her to wanting to run away from her. And that was really probably the first clue that I had that I really had some work to do, because I would never have said before having kids that my childhood was traumatic. I would never have said that. I would have never said that I needed to do inner work. You know, therapy was for people in mental hospitals, not for me. And that was my own bias. But I really was revealed very quickly and very suddenly that I had work to do. And I chose to ignore it. I chose to ignore it and not listen to it and not do the work. And then I had a second child and was so stressed I fell into postnatal anxiety. So we really need to be listening to these clues. These triggers in our children are our mirrors. They are, not only are they mirroring what we are refusing to acknowledge within us. So if they are really heightened, really angry, really reactive, where are you feeling that within your body? Remembering that our babies are attuned to our nervous system. Not only that, the stuff that they do that you were never allowed to do is really going to piss you off. I saw a saying, and I have no idea who said it. I should have taken note, but there was a man who's like, I can walk onto an airplane carrying my baby and I will know exactly who on the plane was not allowed to cry as a child by the way that they look at me and react to me carrying a baby on. Because everyone thinks baby's going to cry on the plane, right? So the people that are rolling their eyes are like, you know, we know that they have no self-love and self-regulation skills, because otherwise someone with a frontal lobe would see that that's just a baby coming on and we're going to be okay. And that may sound brutal, but that's truly the world as I see it. The dark night of the soul that can often come after motherhood. Now, here in Australia, we are so quick to label women with postnatal mental health disorders, and I actually don't think that there is a true, I don't believe that there's a lot of weight in a lot of it, because if you are up 6 times a night, you're not sleeping, you've got someone that relies on you 24/7, and you have very little self-care capacity, or you are not going to the gym, or maybe you can't because you're recovering from major abdominal surgery, or you're really struggling to eat healthy, or you're not drinking enough water, or there's so many variables. It is a normal thing to feel sad about that. That is a normal thing. And so many of us actually walk into a GP clinic or wherever we feel safest to go, and we sit down and say these stories, and so many times I think we actually perpetuate a worse narrative than what is actually going on, because your GP looks at you like you've got two heads. So there are a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times where we do women a disservice by not actually saying that, hey, having a baby is one of the hardest things you will do ever. So really acknowledging that there is a lot of parts in early motherhood that are really uncomfortable by design, and they are often a opportunity for self-transformation, and they are an opportunity to go deeper and reveal where you don't feel safe in your emotions, or you feel like you have to be perfect, or you can't ask for help. That's a massive one. As women, I think we're trained very early on and made to feel like an inconvenience if we ask for help. And then in early motherhood, that doesn't just go away, that shows up, we double down on that. So we think that we have to do all of our own cooking, or, you know, how do you feel about someone coming to do your floors and your washing for you? Does that make you deeply uncomfortable? Why? So it really does reveal an opportunity of self-development that would not be there should you not have chosen to become a mother. So it is a really beautiful opportunity. Now, the bounce back culture is huge. You're not going backwards. You're not bouncing back from anything. There is nothing to bounce back from. You are an entirely new woman. And, you know, the mental bounce back, the physical bounce back, the bouncing back to work, like, you're not fucking Tigger. Like, you're fine just the way that you are, taking your time, going to become this new person. Okay, so there is a massive cultural narrative, and it really is a patriarchal narrative that we have to go back to who we were before, and we have to go back to the woman that we were before. So we have to, you know, go back to that job and that same drive, and, you know, you have to be really sexy still, or you have to, you know, still have this thriving relationship all the time, and you have to be happy, and it's just not sustainable. And I think it actually perpetuates the narrative that mothers are failing, because you're not going to have the same level of motivation for all things in your life. Your brain literally shifts to focus. It's like changing the lens on your camera, and, you know, you've gone from like a wide lens to a narrow lens, where your narrow lens by design is focused on this baby. And so if a woman doesn't feel like going back to work, what's the first thing she does? Panics, because she's lost this like drive that she had before children to be the queen of the world, or an incredible lawyer, an amazing nurse, or, you know, whatever that may be. It shifts and changes in motherhood. So really being aware of that before you have a baby, that you cannot predict how you're going to feel after you have a baby, about returning to work especially. Appearance, things are going to change. You are going to shift. And I mean, we see enough of it, the jokes around like having like saggy breasts after breastfeeding, or, you know, like I've got like a dog ear, I think that's what we call it, of skin on my belly from holding 3 massive babies. Does that make me any less of a person? No. Does it make me a real human? Yes. Does my husband love it? And yeah. And it's not about the fact that you've changed being a negative thing, but catching yourself every time you go to be negative about yourself, and reminding yourself what you've been through, and that this is a transformation, and you're not under any pressure to bounce back. You have to take the pressure off yourself. No one else can. Now, when you become a new mum, everything shifts. We've recapped that. We've touched briefly on that in this episode, but it is not a fatal flaw. It is not concrete. And even who you are in those first 3 months after having a baby, in the first year after having a baby, just know that you are fluid right now. You are moving and swaying with what your baby needs. And as your baby grows, I promise you, organically you start to find your feet and you start to find a new rhythm and a new groove, and the things that feel frustrating or like you're trapped right now are so beyond temporary and generally imagined by your nervous system. So regulate your nervous system today. Go and put your feet on the grass. Go and do some breathing. Take a 5-minute walk without your baby. Try and do something for yourself today. Catch your thoughts. Catch them. If you catch yourself being negative, or if you catch yourself putting yourself down about what you've done all day, catch yourself, because this season is so temporary. It is such a blip. You will be your new version of yourself tomorrow, the next day. You just have to keep going in early motherhood. Motherhood cracks you open not to punish you, to reveal who you are truly from the inside, without any external validation, without any external stuff, who you are and what you were made of. And it is the most beautiful self-development opportunity you will ever get in your life. If you can survive being at home with babies, toddlers, if you can thrive, you can learn to enjoy the stillness for probably the first time in your life. You have those tools for the rest of your life. You will be a better person for it. Thank you so much for being here. Episode 3 of my beautiful little podcast. If you have any questions, I'm an open book. Please find me online, Brie Reynolds RN. But yes, thank you for being here.